Good morning. We'll just give folks a moment to clear the waiting room. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please do remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the city of Boston's website. Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce will be joining us shortly. At the moment, we are joined by Commissioners Liam Curran and Kiana Saxon. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order it appears on the agenda with a few adjustments, which I will go over in a moment. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with knowledge of the alleged incident. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record. The licensee or the representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited to individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident only. And due to a scheduling conflict, we have received a request to call items 5, 7, and 8 out of order. We'll begin with those three. So we will now be calling item number 5 on this morning's agenda. That is Concord Entertainment, Inc., doing business as Bill's Bar, the Lansdowne Pub, located at 9 Lansdowne Street. Date of the incident was March 19th, 2022. Patron on staff assault in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning, Sarah Palmer and Katina Corapines. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department? I believe.
Officer Michael Foley.
Great. Thank you very much, Officer Foley. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Good morning, Officer Foley, Boston Police.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand?
Sarah?
Yep. Yes, I see her. Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Officer Foley, you may please proceed with the police report.
At about 12:49 a.m. on Saturday, March 19th, 2022, officers Crowley and Foley assigned to the Delta Gold 1 Alpha on site of an assault at 5 Lansdowne Street, Boston, Mass. Officers were on patrol on Lansdowne
Just 1
Street.
second,
They
Officer
were waved
Foley,
down
your
by a
audio is
bystander for a
lagging
drunk
pretty
male,
badly.
later identified as Patrick Mildner. So what was that?
Yep, your audio is lagging pretty badly. I wonder if it might work if you turn your camera off.
Okay, hold on 1 second, sir. Is it working better now?
That seems to be better.
Okay. Do you want me to restart or pick up where I left off?
If you wouldn't mind restarting it, it started lagging pretty quickly.
Nope, I don't mind.
Thank you.
At about 12:49 a.m. on Saturday, March 19th, 2022, officers Crowley and Foley signed to the Delta Gold 1 on site of an assault at 5 Lansdowne Street, Boston, Mass. Officers were on patrol on Lansdowne Street where they were waved down by a bystander for a drunk male, later identified as Patrick Mildner, laying down on the sidewalk outside Bill's Bar, located at 5 Lansdowne Street. Officers then proceeded to speak to the individual on the ground, who explained to officers that he was involved in a physical altercation with one of the bouncers employed by Bill's Bar. Officers then spoke to the bouncers at Bill's Bar and identified the employee involved as Skylar Weiss. Weiss explained to officers that he was removing Mildner from the premises due to his disorderly behavior, and during that process, Mildner became physical with Weiss and grabbed his neck. As a result, Weiss escorted Mildner from the premise. Bill's Bar staff had to forcibly remove Mildner from the premise. During this time, Mildner lost his balance and he fell to the ground, resulting in an apparent internal shoulder injury. My partner and I did not observe any visible marks on Lisa's neck. Officers observed that Mildner had been injured and requested Boston EMS to the scene. Boston EMS 3812 responded to the scene and evaluated Mildner. After evaluation, EMS determined that it was a major shoulder injury and advised Mildner that he should be taken to the hospital for further treatment, to which he declined. Sergeant Schroeder, the X-ray 914, responded to the scene and conducted a code 35 of the premises. Code 35 ticket number 04229 issued for patron on staff assault, no violations.
Thank you, Officer. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged violation?
If I might, the officer, the inspection notice indicates that Mr. Weiss was the victim of this incident. He's in fact named as victim Skylar Weiss. Is that correct? He's the staff member?
That is correct.
Okay. And just for the record, Attorney Green and members of the board, this was some time ago. Mr. Weiss is no longer employed. The person who was the manager of record at the time is no longer employed. Ms. Palmer, who's with us this morning, is the current manager of record with no personal knowledge of this incident. We had very little internal on this other than what we have from the police inspection notice, which would indicate that our staff member was the victim of the incident. And that's really all we have, unfortunately, at this time. The inspection notice, I can't even read who it is, suggests that where the police called, that looks like the no box is checked. And then there's a name by whom, but it's impossible to read. And then it identifies the Mr. Weiss as the victim. And that's all that we have.
Thank you, Commissioners Carmen or Commissioner Saxon. Any questions for the licensee?
Attorney Quilty, you said you had very little internal. Do you have any? Is there anything documenting?
No, in fact, I think Ms. Corpines, who's the loss prevention person for the Lions Group, reached out to the board yesterday. I don't think she even had a notice of the hearing as of yesterday afternoon. I had it, but they didn't have it, and they had no internal records. And again, these people are they're no longer employed, so it's very difficult to come up with anything. Whether a report was made or not, we can't tell internally. But again, I mean, the only thing we have does indicate that this person was the victim.
Thank you, Commissioner Saxon. Any questions?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Continuing out of order, we will call item number 7, Game On Fenway LLC, doing business as Game On Sports Cafe, located at 72 to 82 Lansdowne Street. Date of the incident, May 1st, 2022, assault by means of a dangerous weapon, a gun, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A, and disorderly conduct in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Again, Attorney Green, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning is Isaiah Moore, Katina Corpines again, and Corvington, I can't pronounce his last name, I'm sorry, Corvington Dumont, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. And who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Dario Fancelli, I'm a sergeant with the Boston Police.
Sergeant Fancelli. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Detective Hernandez if needed.
Thank you very much. And Sergeant Fancelli, would it be possible to turn your camera on so we can swear you in?
Also, Detective Chris Spencer, the Delta 801 from District 4 is also present.
Thank you, Detective. Sergeant Fancelli, are you still with us?
like he's muted.
Yeah, I just asked him to unmute. If you're able to speak, Sergeant Vancelli, can you affirm to us that can raise your right hand when I ask? Oh, he's actually just rejoining from the waiting room, potentially on another device. There we go. Sergeant, are you with us now?
There he is.
There we go. I see him now.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Vancelli, are you reading in the police report?
Yes.
Great, you can proceed.
12:45 PM on 5/2/22, myself, and Officer Lero responded to 82 Brookline Ave to Game On for a license premise violation. On 5/1/22, officers assigned to District 4 were on a code 19 for a large event at Game On, where they were told someone inside Game On had brandished a firearm and quote unquote cocked it. Video was recovered from the Boston Red Sox showing a male in front of the door of Game On trip and fall into Brookline Ave, at which time he appears to drop something. The male appears to pick up and point an item at the crowd when the crowd scatters. The male then leaves the area onto Lansdowne Street. On arrival with Officer Lero, we spoke to Rufus Arahif. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that right. Mr. Arahif stated that last night at Game On, he had hired a promoter named, quote, DJ Keith for an event. Mr. Arahif stated that at no time was a gun pulled at Game On, and there was an incident in question happened in front of the cask and flagon, which is in contrast to what the video showed. License premise inspection notice 026953 was issued for disorderly conduct and for the patrons outside Game On and assault by means of a dangerous weapon to wood gun. Mr. Arahif disagreed with this and refused to sign the notice. I printed Mr. Arahif's name on the notice as a point of contact, and I forwarded this to the licensing unit. And that's the end of the police report.
Thank you, Sergeant. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I may, Sergeant, the report indicates that the officers observed somebody outside the front door of Game On. Is that right? It said showing a male run from the front door of Game On and trip and fall onto Brookline Avenue.
I believe that was based on the video, not the officer's observations.
Okay. And the other establishment that's named is immediately across the street, is it not?
Correct.
And from this, does it appear that the person who dropped something was only observed outside on the street between these two licensed premises?
No, the video showed them coming from the area of the door of Game On.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at. Could the area of the door could be the corner of Brookline Avenue and Lansdowne Street, which is the same corner as the other establishment, no?
No, they were coming from the other direction, closer to Jersey Street.
But I mean, it doesn't suggest that in this report.
I watched the video. That's what's on the video.
Okay, so the report of the incident is based solely on the observations made of the video.
Right. The initial report that was made to the officers that night, plus the video that was observed after the fact.
Okay. And this, your report indicates the police were called on site. That's a police call. Is that correct?
I don't believe there was a 911 call immediately. There we had officers in the area monitoring the event.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Moore is with us this morning. Is Isaiah Moore? Are you with us, Mr. Moore? There he is. Have you been sworn? Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, your volume is really bad.
I apologize.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. It's a little better, yep, a little better, yep.
Okay.
Were you sworn just a few minutes ago? Did you raise your right hand and swear?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yes, he did.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm reverberating here for some reason.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of feedback from me. I think you, Mr. Moore.
A lot of feedback from me.
Well, that's better.
Okay.
Is it still coming back on me? No? Okay, thank you, thank you. Mr. Moore, what's your, are you an employee of the establishment?
Yes, I am. I'm the head security guard of the Game On Security.
Okay, and were you present on the night in question?
I was.
Okay. And was there an incident that occurred outside of Game On the night in question?
Yes.
Can you describe briefly what it is you observed, what happened?
It was the let out. I had a couple of security guards downstairs. I had a couple of security guards upstairs. I also had some security guards outside, to help clear the front of the establishment. As that was happening, a group had pulled up. I believe there was an argument that took place between two groups outside. One guy pulled his firearm, he racked it back, and then the crowd started to run. As this was happening, the gang unit for D4 was taking the right onto Brookline Ave from Jersey Street, and then the crowd had ran back inside to Game On. Then my security had shut the door. We locked the door. As the officer did say, an officer did come inside. Two officers did come inside to talk to us to see what happened. But as for that, that's what was from my knowledge.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that? I couldn't hear it.
The last part,
Yes.
two officers did come inside to speak with us to figure out what was going on. My security and myself did, we did explain what was happening and what was told to us. And then that was it.
Okay. So to your knowledge, did this incident take place with persons outside of the establishment on the street?
Yes, it happened outside.
And when you suggested you brought patrons back inside, what was the purpose of that?
That was just due to safety. We didn't want anybody to get hurt that was outside, and I didn't want my security guards to get hurt. So we literally had everybody come back inside, as many people as we could as possible, and then we locked the door. And then we seen the flashing blue lights.
Okay. And then at that point, did you personally interface with the Boston Police Department members?
I did.
And did you?
Yes, I explained to them what was happening. They asked me if I seen where the guy went. I did not see where the guy went. I know that two officers did proceed to walk down Lansdowne Street, and one of them stayed in front, continued to talk to me. He called for backup, and then that was it.
Okay. And did you cooperate with the police officers at this time?
I did.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moore. I have no further questions. The board may have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the licensee?
What time did this happen? That's unclear.
So the day party was from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So we were letting out around that time. So approximately between 9 and 9:30.
Okay, and do you have any knowledge of whether the person you observed outside had been a patron?
Say that one more time.
The person with the firearm that you observed outside, had he been a patron?
To my knowledge, no. Like I said, I seen a car pull up. I seen gentlemen get out. This R&B and Me event is a really big event that a lot of different neighborhoods go to. I believe that from what the patrons were saying that night and what was told to some of the officers is that There were a lot of different neighborhoods that were inside that have problems with each other outside of Game On. I believe that from what was told to what was told to us in the security was that there was a guy from another neighborhood. Somebody seen him inside. They called their friend, and then that's what was happening. As for the guy who had the firearm, I did not see him inside.
Okay, that's all the questions I have about the events. But Attorney Quilty, even though you weren't written up for it, I do want to address it just as an aside.
I'm sorry, sir, please repeat. I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry. So I want to address something I noticed as an aside. I know you haven't been written up for it, but who is this Mr. Arheef on the day of the licensed premise?
Mr. Arheef was at the time on management staff. I will tell you that he is still an employee, but on basically probationary status. His responsibilities have been reduced sharply because of this event. His explanation was that he did not understand what he was being asked to do and was hoping to talk to superiors. It was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened. He's been told, he's been demoted as a result of this, and been told, as have all the staff, very clearly that they are to sign and cooperate. It's merely signing receipt. It's not suggesting, the veracity of anything in the reports, et cetera. I think it was, in this case, simply a rookie mistake, if you will, and we have done a better job since that of making sure all the staff understand their responsibilities in this regard.
Okay, thank you for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Saxon. Any questions?
So did you see it, or were you told by the security what had happened?
Say that again.
Did you see the incident, or were you told by your staff, by your security staff, what had happened?
So I was there for the well, I wasn't there. I was coming upstairs and seeing the argument happening. But as for what actually happened, patrons and my security guards were telling me what happened.
Okay, and just to confirm, the argument was taking place outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it was in front of Game On, or where was it?
So we have Game On, and across the street, there's a Sal's Pizza, and there's cones in the street. It was literally taking place right there.
Okay. And what do you mean by wrap it back? You talked about what he did with the gun.
So he pulled his firearm, and then I don't know
I
if
think
I'm
that's the
using
cocking
picture.
mechanism that he's
Yeah,
referencing,
the
I
cocking
think.
mechanism to put one bullet in the head to shoot.
Okay, and we'll get that video.
I think the officer, I believe there is video that was provided. I think what happened is there were security cameras next door to Game On at the Red Sox, which captured some of this. I'm not sure how much of it, but that's referenced in the report. So I believe that, and I believe the officer suggested they observed what they observed from the video. We'll try to, we will, do our best if the board doesn't have that to provide that. If we can discover it. I think it's from next door.
Thank you. Yeah, no videos have been submitted to the board at this time.
It did sound to me like the Boston police were in possession of that from the Boston Red Sox.
That's what it appears.
So, I mean, maybe the sergeant could work to get it for us.
Is Sergeant still with us? There he is.
Sergeant Francelli is still with us. Oh, I see him speaking, but he's on mute.
There he is.
Yep, I don't know if the detectives already have that. If not, we can facilitate getting that to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions from Commissioner Carn or Commissioner Saxon?
How many total staff? How many total security?
That night we had 15 guys on.
And what was the crowd like? How many?
The crowd was a young crowd. It was a mixed crowd, mix of older and younger. It was a hip hop event. we did search. We had wands that night. Yeah,
And was it at capacity or under capacity?
to be honest, it happened so long ago. I honestly don't remember what the count was at.
And it-
Nothing further from me.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. And we have been joined by Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce, and we will continue to call out of order. Then we will return to the order of the agenda. Item number 8, Game On Fenway LLC, doing business as Game On Sports Cafe, located at 72 to 82 Lansdowne Street, date of the incident, June 23rd, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron in front of premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. And assault by means of a handgun, patron on patron in front of premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Again, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the applicant with us. Excuse me, Orpington Dumond, Katina Corapines again. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Good morning. And Isaiah Moore.
Great, thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Yes, this is Detective Fencer. I just want to make sure we have the right date we're talking about for which, for this Game On incident.
Yep, this was the incident of, I believe it's June 23rd, 2022.
It's
Oh,
actually,
hang on a second.
it's a bit confusing. It's actually, the incident actually is
June 12th.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah, that's my-
22, and then
Okay.
the inspection notice was the 23rd.
that's correct. My bad, I'm looking through the notices.
That's okay. Okay, that's what confused me a little bit, but that's that. Detective Fencer from District 4 will be speaking.
Great, thank you very much, and apologies for the confusion. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Sergeant Detective Lynn Gallagher, if need be.
Lieutenant Detective Troy, if necessary.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Detective Fencer. You could please proceed with the report.
About 10:10 p.m. on Sunday, June 12th, 2022, officers Canty and Herbert assigned Delta 103F responded to a radio call for an affray that was upgraded to a shots fired call outside of Game On, 82 Lansdowne Street in the Fenway neighborhood of Boston. Upon arrival, officers encountered a chaotic scene with witnesses fleeing in all directions from the Game On bar. Officers smelled what they perceived to be freshly burnt gunpowder in the air and were able to locate what they believed to be ballistic damage to the window of a nearby building. Officers broadcast their observations over Channel 5. District 4 officers canvassed the area, but as of this writing, were unable to locate any shell casings or a gunshot victim. Officers initially spoke with Anthony Chuga, security for Game On, who was working the front door at the time of the incident. Mr. Chuga stated that the bar was hosting a private event in the basement that evening and were distributing yellow-colored wristbands to event guests. According to the witness, a verbal dispute started in the basement, which Game On staff quickly reacted to, and the patrons were removed. Once outside, members of the private event began screaming out of the establishment, and a violent physical altercation broke out on the sidewalk, during which several individuals were knocked down, receiving punches and kicks to the face and the head. Game On security attempted to separate the parties, and at one point, Mr. Chuga separated a male wearing what he described as a ski mask. The male retreated back to his vehicle, stating, "I'm going to come back with it. I'm going to come back with it." A few seconds later, the witness heard what he believed to be a gunshot coming from the direction that the suspect retreated to. Officers next spoke with Jermaine Cox, who was sitting in his car across Brookline Ave from Game On. Mr. Cox stated that he witnessed the altercation spill out of the bar and escalate as it entered the street. During the altercation, Mr. Cox witnessed victim number 1, later identified as Wesley Goodman, get knocked onto the ground and immediately get punched and kicked in the head by a number of unidentified individuals, one of whom ran through his pockets, stealing his cell phone and a gold chain around his neck. Mr. Cox also witnessed victim number 2, later identified as Mikkel Calloway, get knocked get knocked on the ground, and also get kicked and punched in and around the head and face. Mr. Calloway was able to break free from the melee and hid in Mr. Cox's car until officers were able to arrive on scene. Mr. Cox was able to direct officers to both victims who were attempting to flee the area. Officers stopped victim number 1, Goodman, victim number 2, Calloway, and a third party outside of vehicle Mass Reg 3 Bravo Charlie Michael 87, a 2012 Audi Q5 parked outside of 45 Lansdowne Street. All victims were initially uncooperative with officers, however, agreed to be evaluated by Boston EMS for their injuries. Ambulance number 9, Trainer and Sullivan arrived. However, all parties declined transport to the hospital. While on scene, Goodman stated that whoever assaulted him had stolen his cell phone as well as a gold chain off of his neck. Due to their injuries and the fact that they were drinking that night, a mutual friend, Michael Alexander, arrived and took control of the vehicle. District 4 Detective Fencer, under the supervision of Sergeant Detective Keenan, arrived and processed the scene. During their initial investigation, detectives were able to broadcast a possible suspect's vehicle, described as a black 2014 Jeep Cherokee, Mass Reg 3, Charlie Delta Kilo 77. The vehicle appeared to be operated by a light-skinned black male, 25 to 30 years of age, with a beard. The suspect fled on Kilmarnock Street towards Boylston Street. A description of the vehicle was broadcast citywide into the surrounding communities. That's the end of the report.
Okay.
Thank you, Detective
Board
Fencer.
would like- I'm sorry, if the board could like, I could read the LPV into the record as well.
Thank you, that would be great.
Yes, on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, Sergeant Detective Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit, responded to Game On located at 82 Lansdowne Street. Detectives were there to speak to staff regarding a shots fired incident that occurred on June 12th, 2022, BPD number 222-043-220. Detectives spoke to the person in charge, Anthony Chuga, who confirmed that he was aware of the incident. Mr. Chuga informed detectives that D4 detectives had already contacted him and the establishment video system was not functioning at the time of the incident. As a result of this incident, Sergeant Gallagher issued license premise 043120 for assault and battery, patron and patron in front of premise, and assault by means of a dangerous weapon, firearm in front of premise. Mr. Chuga signed for, accepted the notice. That's that report.
Thank you, Sergeant Gallagher. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Green, if I may. Excuse me, first, Detective Sergeant Gallagher, you wrote up the incident report 10 or 12 days after the circumstances, is that correct?
Yes, sir. We were informed of it after the incident, and we had to wait till they were open so we could get down there and speak to them.
Understood. And but so as a result, you have no personal knowledge of what happened on the 12th?
No, sir. Only our conversation with Mr. Chuga and the D4 detectives.
Gotcha. And I do want to suggest to the board, Mr. Chuga, unfortunately, who was the key witness for us, is out of the country on a long planned trip, and I apologize for that. We certainly wish he was here. We do have his internal report, which was prepared for Mr. Corvington, who's with us this morning. If the board would allow that to be read at the appropriate time, that's obviously up to the board. But I do want to just go back and ask the initial officer, sergeant rather, the initial officer spoke to Mr. Chuga on scene on the night in question. Is that correct?
Are you speaking to me, sir?
I'm
Detective?
sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's what the report states, yes, and that's what
Okay.
happened.
And that area, so officers initially spoke with Anthony Chuga. He is then described in this report as the witness. Is that correct?
If that's what the report states, then that's what it is, yes.
Okay. So it would appear from that Mr. Chuga cooperated with the police in this circumstance.
That is correct, sir.
And with regard to the actual circumstances, this occurred outside on the street, is that correct?
Yes.
And the descriptions that were given and the information that was given, again, were all provided by Mr. Chuga and this other person, Mr. Cox, who happened to be outside apparently.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And the report, the inspection notice does indicate that management cooperated with the police. So I think I have no further questions for the officers, and I would again like to inquire of the board if Mr. Corvington would be able to read Mr. Chuga's internal report of the incident, since we do not have Mr. Chuga with us today. Is that acceptable?
Chairman Joyce, is that okay with the board?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Mr. Corvington? And Mr. Demond, you've been sworn. Just state your name for the record, please.
Corvington Demond.
And what is your responsibility with regard to the licensee premise?
I'm the Director of Operations for Lansdowne Street.
Okay. And as such, would Mr. Anthony Chuga, who's referenced in these reports, report to you?
Yes,
And did he make a report of this particular incident, which you have with you today?
yes, that's correct.
Can you read that for the board, please? And we'll provide this as well, Madam Chair.
Okay, so in his reports and this incident description, he wrote, I saw two guys outside to begin to argue. One guy struck the other in the head/temple area. To avoid any further confrontation, I placed myself between two of the men. After Rufus and I separated them, the guys I had pushed himself. One of the guys had pushed himself from me and began yelling that he was coming back repeatedly. He ran off across the street towards Berkshire Bank and took a left. He was adjusting a ski mask as he was running away. Once at the end of the street, he cut and took a right, and I lost visual. I went back telling the people to clear the street. Shortly after, people began to yell about someone having a gun. I've had patrons who were leaving go back downstairs to try to prevent anyone from getting hurt. Soon after, I heard two shots go off. Chaos ensued, so I shut the building down. I kept all patrons and employees downstairs until the police showed up. And that was the end of his report.
And thank you, Mr. Corvington. I don't know whether the board has any questions. But again, it would appear as though appropriate actions were taken with regard to the incident, and that Mr. Chuga is named as, basically cooperating with the police in this circumstance.
Thank you. And before we move to questions from the board, I believe we missed one additional report that Lieutenant Troy will be reading into the record. Lieutenant Troy, are you with us?
Yeah, this is Detective Fence's report. It's a supplement, and it describes the Detective Fence's investigative steps and some of the video evidence. If Detective Fence wants to read it, or I can read it.
Yes, sir, I can read it for you if
Sure.
Okay, I'll start from my supplemental. I'll start with the very first supplemental, which was about 7:20 a.m. on Monday, 6/13/2022. Officer Burgos in the Delta 421 was dispatched to and found ballistics at 61 Brookline Ave in Boston, Mass. Upon arrival, officers met with caller and owner of the Plant Pub restaurant, Christine Franco. Franco stated that she found a bullet fragment inside of her business. Officer observed the front window of the business damaged and shattered with what appeared to be a bullet hole in it. Officer made entrance and observed a silver color fragment that appeared to be a bullet. Officer also observed damage to the bar where the bullet ricocheted. Officers contacted District 4 detectives, and the Delta 803 Detective McCarthy arrived on scene and processed those photos. Now for the final supplemental. Upon further investigation into this incident, on 6/12/2022, Detective Fence from the Delta 801 responded to a radio call for shots fired at 61 Brookline Ave. A check of the Boston Police Net Viewer system revealed a known caller who had stated that they heard one gunshot, which was documented in the 911 call. On arrival, Detective Fencer observed a shattered but intact window with what appeared to be a bullet hole through it in the front of 61 Brookline Ave. Detective Fencer processed the scene by photographing the window. Detective Fencer could not gain entrance to 61 Brookline Ave, and no other ballistic evidence was found at this time. On 6/12/2022, Detective Spencer observed video footage from both Boston Police FLIR care system and the Fenway security camera system, which showed a light-skinned male with short cropped black hair, a thin black mustache, and a full-size black beard, wearing a black t-shirt, khaki shorts, and white sneakers in front of the Game On bar located at 82 Lansdowne Street with a number of people. The suspect then walks towards his vehicle, which is a black Jeep Grand Cherokee bearing Mass Reg 3 Charlie Delta Kilo 77, which he had parked at the intersection of Brookline Ave and Jersey Street, while a number of individuals follow him. The suspects get in his vehicle while those individuals come out to the driver's side of the car and appear to be speaking with him. An unknown female gets into the passenger side of the vehicle. The suspect then exits the vehicle along with the female and walks toward the sidewalk where he appears to be having an argument with another party. The suspect walks back to his vehicle and pulls from his waistband what appears to be a black handgun. At this time, several of the individuals that are in his immediate area begin to move away from him. The suspect gets back into his vehicle without the female passenger and drives down Brookline Ave toward Kenmore Square. Detectives observed the Fenway security cameras, which followed the vehicle down to Kenmore Square, where the vehicle makes a U-turn and heads up back Brookline Ave towards Fenway Park. Detectives observed another unknown individual wearing a black hat, a black hooded sweatshirt, blue ripped jeans, and white sneakers walking across Brookline Avenue at the intersection of Brookline Ave and Jersey Street. While the motor vehicle begins to come to the intersection, the individual is observed running to the other side of Brookline Ave and ducking behind a mailbox located in front of 61 Brookline Ave as the motor vehicle drives by. Detectives then observed individuals in the area begin to run in all directions as the motor vehicle speeds off down Brookline Ave, past Jersey Street, nearly striking an unknown female that was walking across Brookline Ave toward David Ortiz Way. Shortly after the call came into 911, Detective Lundbaum in the Delta 813, while observing the Boston Police FLIR video cameras in the Fenway Park area from the District 4 Police Station, disseminated a photo of the suspect to the Boston Police Regional Intelligence Center of a light-skinned male with short cropped black hair, a thin black mustache, and a full-size black beard, wearing a black t-shirt, khaki shorts, and white sneakers, holding what appeared to be a black handgun. Standing outside of the motor vehicle he had exited, a black Jeep Grand Cherokee bearing Mass Reg 3 Charlie Delta Kilo 77. Detective Fencer conducted a CJIS inquiry of the motor vehicle Mass Reg 3 Charlie Delta Kilo 77, which revealed the registered owner as Joshua Pires. The registered motor vehicle photo of Mr. Pires showed a light-skinned male with short cropped black hair, a thin black mustache, and a full-size black beard, which matched the picture of the suspect standing next to Mass Reg 3 Charlie Delta 77 from the video image sent by Detective Lundbaum of the suspect involved in the shooting at the time of the incident. Detective Fencer conducted a border probation inquiry on Mr. Pires, which revealed docket number 2101 Charlie Robert 000773 Alpha for open charges out of Boston Municipal Court for arraignment for operating under the influence of drugs, assault with a dangerous weapon, firearm, and possession of a firearm without a permit loaded. On February 25th, 2021, a traffic stop was conducted at 69 Canal Street by Boston police officers Mikhail and Ghani in the Alpha 101, which led to an arrest of Joshua Pires. On February 27th, 2021, a search warrant was executed, which resulted in the seizure of a firearm from Mr. Pires' motor vehicle that he was operating at the time of the incident. Detective Fencer also conducted a CJIS inquiry on Joshua Pires, which stated that Mr. Pires does not currently have a license to carry or an FID card. On 6/14/2022, District 4 Detective McCarthy responded to the Plant Pub located at 61 Brookline Ave on a call for found ballistics. Detective McCarthy seized what appeared to be bullet fragments from inside the pub. Detective McCarthy photographed the scene and the evidence was logged in by Detective Fencer. On 6/14/2022, Detective Fencer received a phone call from the manager of Plant Pub located at 61 Brookline Ave, who stated that along with the ballistic evidence, she had also had video of the incident. She stated that she observed the video which showed a black motor vehicle which pulls up to the victim who had ducked behind the mailbox in front of 61 Brookline Ave, and she observed a muzzle flash coming from inside of the vehicle and then speed away. On 6/15/2022, Detective Fencer received video from the manager of the Plant Pub. Detective Fencer observed the video footage from from the front of 61 Brookline Ave, which shows the victim running toward, then ducking behind the mailbox in front of 61 Brookline Ave. The video also shows a black motor vehicle driving by and a bright light flashing from inside the vehicle as the victim is crouched behind the mailbox. The video also shows debris flying through the inside of the bar at the same time as the bright light coming from the passenger side of the vehicle. The suspect appears to be the only individual in the vehicle after the unknown female entered and exited the front seat, and video evidence shows that no one else entered the front passenger seat. That's the end of the report.
Thank you, Detective Fencer. Attorney Quilty, anything further to add before we move to the board for questions?
I would like to state on the record that that entire report of supplemental 2 was not in the documentation given to us. I've never seen it before, never heard of it. And certainly seems to contain more information than anything else.
Thank you. I will check. I do believe that was sent with the initial hearing notice, but we will verify that.
And just in terms of locations, I do want to point out that the Plant Pub is kind of new, but the former Boston Beer Works, which is around the corner and on the other side of the street from the establishment before you today, is the location of where this gunshot apparently took place. And we heard, I think, more information about Jersey Street, the former Yawkey Way, than we did about Lansdowne Street in any of these supplemental reports. It appears as though the shooting and the incidents were taking place up and down Brookline Avenue, Jersey Street. It sounds like everywhere but Lansdowne Street, which is where this establishment is. I would just ask the board to take that into consideration. But again, we've never seen any of that second supplemental report. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, I've just asked staff to verify that it was sent. They're saying yes, but again, we will double check. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I have a couple questions. The police report says that a verbal dispute started in the private event, began streaming out of the establishment, and a violent physical altercation broke out on the sidewalk. But the report that was read, the internal report that was read, states that they safely kept everyone inside.
But I think what well, we can reread it, but I think he reported that as people were leaving, he made observations outside, which caused him to bring everybody back inside.
Okay.
I'm almost certain that's what was suggested. We'll provide that full report to you.
Please,
Yes,
yeah.
that's correct.
I, at this point, don't have any other questions. I'll defer to my fellow commissioners, but reserve the right to ask a couple more questions.
Attorney Quilty, what was going on with the video? When they came for the licensed premise, they said there was no video, wasn't working.
Commissioner, I would have to defer to, I don't know whether Ms. Corpines knows, but it appears as though he suggested that the video was not operating properly. And other than that, I do not know the answer. I mean, apparently, there's obviously very, very good, high quality camera work immediately next door, and I think that's what was observed. But I don't know. I will try to determine Ms. Corpines or Mr. Demond. Do you have any idea what happened with the video?
Yes, we didn't have, our camera systems weren't up and running at the time, and even just a couple of notes, we just got a new camera system installed into the entire building. So we, for that, throughout that period and even before, we didn't have camera systems up.
So an old system had been taken down and you were waiting to install a new one. Is that what was happening?
So we've had an old system, but it just wasn't working for quite some time. And throughout all these incidents, we deemed that it was very necessary for us to have like proper working camera systems. So we just updated everything.
Okay. And I just want to, someone from your premises called the police when it was a fight, correct?
Yes, there were. I believe it was Anthony that called the police.
It would appear it does not indicate, it says police were called. It does not indicate by whom, but it does appear from the verbiage that Mr. Chuga is the witness, as it's described, who was providing information to the police.
And it's just the way I read it, it seems that the police were called at least before it was a shots fired. It had been a call for a fight, and then probably another call after the shots were fired. Is that?
It's unclear, quite frankly, unfortunately.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Detective.
And
Gallagher. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Saxon, didn't see him. Oh, she's frozen.
Commissioner Saxon, you're frozen.
My fault.
Okay, in the meantime, Detective Gallagher, you wanted to add something?
Yes, so when we went to issue the LPV, Mr. Chuga informed us that he was the one that did call the police. He said there was an altercation in the basement with what he believed might have been people with the promoters or some sub-promoters. And when that looked like it was getting out of hand, he's the one that made the 911 call.
Thank you, Sergeant Detective.
Thank you. Looks like Commissioner Saxon is still frozen. Oh, and now she has left us. Any further questions from the board at this time? Chairman, no, okay. All right, the board will take this matter under advisement, and Attorney Quilty, please do forward that internal report when you're able to.
We will do so. Thank you very much. Thanks for calling those out of turn.
Thank you. Okay, we will now return to the top of the agenda and taking items in order, beginning with item number 1 on this morning's agenda, The Next Place LLC, doing business as The Greatest Bar, located at 262 to 266 Friend Street. Date of the incident, May 15th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on staff in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Attorney Kurt Bletzer on behalf of Next Place LLC. And with me is one of the security staff, Adam Rudolph.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Anthony Beatrice.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Thank you. And do we have Mr. Rudolph with us on camera so we can swear him in?
Yes, I can turn my camera on. I apologize.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. Great. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Officer Beatrice, you may please proceed with the police report.
About 6:47 p.m. on Sunday, 5/15/2022, officers Beatrice and Settle and the Alpha 102 Frank responded to a radio call for an person removal at 262 Friend Street. Assisting units are as follows: Alpha 421 McCullough, the Alpha 435 Marchand, Alpha 910 Sergeant Downey, the Alpha 985 Sergeant Detective Salucci, the Alpha 913 Detective DeGaulle, and the Alpha 803 Detective Walsh. Upon arrival, officers were met by the greatest bar employee, Joval Beal, at the above location. Beal stated one of the employees was hit in the face by a glass bottle on the 4th floor. Beal pointed to a group of 6 individuals that were across on Friend Street as the potential suspects. Officers spoke with the greatest bar employees, Adam Rudolph, Joval Beal, and Larice Martin, who stated that the group across the street were involved in the physical altercation inside the bar. Beal stated one of the individuals later identified as Brendan McNulty assaulted one of his staff members. Beal pointed across the street in the direction of the group, pointing out McNulty as the person of interest. Beal stated that another member of the friend group, later identified as Michael Carroll, also assaulted the staff members. Beal stated that the interaction started when the employee staff tried to remove an unaffiliated individual for vaping. Beal stated that the group mentioned above then was upset with the staff's actions. Beal stated that McNulty was going to get fired and he was going to keep his identification cards. Officers observed Beal to have both Massachusetts driver's license and his Arlington police ID with him. Beal stated initially he was not going to release them to officers on scene. Officers then spoke with bar staff member Adam Rudolph, who stated he was hit in the face with the beer bottle. Rudolph stated he believed that the individual that threw the beer bottle to be McNulty. Officers observed no visible injuries to Rudolph's face, but small tissue with some blood on it. Officers asked Rudolph if he needed EMS, to which he declined. Martin stated the individual later identified as Robert Marshall was vaping inside the bar. Martin stated he told Marshall to give him the vape, but Marshall put it back inside his pocket. Martin stated Marshall told him, quote, "I won't do it again," unquote. Martin then decided to remove Marshall from the establishment. Martin stated McNulty then came over to see what the problem was. Martin stated Marshall then became confrontational towards him after getting told they'd be getting removed from the bar. Martin stated that McNulty showed Martin that he's a police officer. Martin stated that McNulty then used derogatory language toward the employees after realizing they would be removed. Martin stated that staff employees then tried removing both individuals, but was stopped by members of the friend group. Martin stated that then a physical altercation occurred. Martin stated Beal then removed McNulty into the elevator, and the fight continued in the elevator and continued on the 3rd floor. Officers then walked across the street and spoke with McNulty and the rest of the group: Joseph Gratano, William Rory, Michael Carroll, Robert Marshall, and Daniel O'Laughlin. Officers requested the patrol supervisor to the scene. McNulty said that he did not assault anyone, and it was the staff members that took him to the floor of the elevator and held him down for an unknown amount of time. McNulty stated he had come to the bar after the Celtics game and was with the group mentioned above. McNulty stated he did not throw any punches against staff members. Officers then spoke with Marshall, who stated they were on the 4th floor having drinks. Marshall stated staff employees got into his face. Marshall stated that he did not know the person vaping, and he was not affiliated with the friend group. Marshall stated staff members wanted the group out of the bar. Marshall said he did not see any beer bottles and nobody punching and kicking any staff members. Officers then spoke with Carroll, who stated he was in the hallway when the fight took place. Carroll stated that he saw pushing and shoving on the 4th floor. Carroll stated he was pushed back by staff members. Carroll stated that he witnessed McNulty being pushed into the elevator by one of the staff members. Carroll stated he witnessed one of the staff members holding McNulty down on his neck. Carroll also stated he did not see any beer bottles being thrown or kicks or punches toward the staff members. Officers then were alerted to the fact that video was taken by one of the members of the friend group. Officers spoke with O'Laughlin, who stated he took a video of McNulty being pinned down by Beal. Officers watched the video and observed what appeared to be Beal on top of McNulty on the 3rd floor. The Alpha 910, Sergeant Downey, arrived on scene to assist in the investigation. Sergeant Downey then spoke with bar staff members and individuals of the friend group. Based on the allegations of both staff members and the friend group, Sergeant Downey requested A1 detectives to the scene to review security camera footage. A1 detectives, Alpha 985, Sergeant Detective Salucci, the Alpha 913, Detective DeGaulle, the Alpha 803, Detective Walsh, arrived on scene and reviewed bar security camera footage with Officer Beatrice, Sergeant Downey, and other bar staff employees. Video footage showed a physical altercation on the 4th floor, but was inconclusive as to the specifics of the events stated above. Video showed no beer bottles being thrown and no specific individuals throwing any punches or kicks. Detectives again asked Rudolph if he had any injuries, to which he said no. Officer Beatrice, together with Sergeant Detective Salucci and Detective DeGaulle, went to the 4th floor and ground floor and observed no glass from broken bottles on either. Sergeant Downey issued the greatest bar license premise violation, number 008705. Officers then spoke with the friend group, and the 6 individuals left the scene without further issues. That's the end of the police report.
Thank you, Officer Beatrice. Attorney Bletzer, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Please. Officer Beatrice, when you arrived, the staff cooperated with you in viewing the video and going through the establishment, correct?
Yes.
In the individual that was identified as the Arlington police officer, that was Brandon McNulty.
Correct.
Do you recall what he was wearing?
I believe it was a Celtics game jersey, I believe.
You know, that was our indication also. After you had spoken to all the individuals, you went upstairs with Sergeant Downey and went through the video footage with Jovan Beal and Adam Rudolph, correct?
Correct.
And then Adam took you down from the fourth to show you where the incident occurred down through the third floor, correct?
Correct.
And that video has been turned over to the Boston Police?
I'm not too sure of that, sir.
Okay. And no charges have been filed by anybody, correct?
That is correct. No charges, sir.
And Mr. Rudolph, Adam Rudolph didn't ask to press any charges, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. If I can just inquire of Mr. Rudolph for a couple of questions. Mr. Rudolph, will you state your name for the record, please?
Adam Rudolph.
And you are a security individual at the Next Place LLC, otherwise known as the Greatest Spot, correct?
Correct.
And you were working on the night of this incident on, I believe it was May 15th,
Correct.
and this was after a Celtics game?
Correct.
And what was your first interaction that you had with Mr. McNulty, if you can tell the board?
Yep. So we have a waitress station on the fourth floor. I had asked the gentleman, we have it blocked off, to step away because he was in the waitress station and he gave me attitude. I simply walked away. He had vaped already, told him to not vape, gave him a warning, walked away, told my staff member to keep an eye on him. And then the incident occurred.
And what was what occurred originally? What occurred immediately at that point after you had walked away and looked back?
Nothing had occurred because I gave him the warning, walked back to where I was standing, had told Larice to keep an eye on him. And then that's when he vaped again. And Larice and I went up to him.
And what happened then?
We asked him not to vape, and we have a no policy. So he put it in his pocket, like you said he won't vape. You said that's not the case. You got to go. And that's when the attitude and incident occurred.
And what happened to you immediately after that, after you had that conversation?
Sure. As we were escorting him, I got pushed and got put in a headlock, and then the incident occurred as well.
Who put you in a headlock, if you know?
So the Celtics jersey guy, I forget what you stated his name as. He was the one vaping. He pushed me. His buddy came up from behind me and put me in a headlock.
Okay. And what happened next?
Me with the guy in the Celtics jersey in the headlock, we ended up getting pushed over to the booth where we ended up on the floor. That's when the bottle was thrown and I was hit in the face. And then Jovan came up, grabbed the guy off me that I was being headlocked in, and then the Celtics jersey guy was put into the elevator.
Okay. Did you go down in the elevator with them?
No, sir.
What did you do next?
I went down the stairs. What happened was I stayed up there. Then when I was told to go downstairs because the incident had spilled out onto the third floor because the elevator had opened.
Did your staff call the Boston Police?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you got to the third floor, what did you observe?
I observed the guy in the Celtics jersey and my staff members in an altercation that ended up onto the ground. I observed his friends trying to get involved, and we were holding them back just because we didn't want any further incidents to be had.
And you were able to get everybody out the door at that point?
Excuse me?
You were able to get everyone out the door with any further incident at that point?
After
the elevator opened on the third floor, you were able to get everybody out?
Well, after it occurred for a couple minutes, and then once the cops were called, we were able to get them down the ground.
Okay, but you had them outside already by the time the police arrived, didn't you?
Correct.
Okay. And when the police came, you cooperated with the police, took them upstairs to review the video?
Correct.
Right. And you were asked if you wanted to press charges, but you did not at that point, correct?
Correct.
And other than a bloody nose, you didn't have any real injuries. Is that fair to say?
Besides my nose being hit, no.
Okay. I have nothing further for Mr. Rudolph.
Thank you, Attorney Blitzer. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions for the licensee?
I have a question. I don't know if it's for the licensee or for Boston Police or one of the detectives about the video. It states, I don't know if the first video that's referenced is cell phone video or if it's video from the licensed premise, but the officers were alerted to the fact that it was video taken by one of the members of the friend group, and then later on it says video footage showed a physical altercation. Could Boston Police say, explain what they saw about the specifics on that video? Anyone here who may have seen it?
Yes, ma'am. Officer Beatrice here. So the first was video, iPhone video footage, and it was kind of shaky, but it did show the elevator doors open with one of the bar staff members on top of McNulty. And then the second reference is the Greatest Bar security footage.
Okay. You, at any point, just clarifying, I know it says in the police report, were you able to determine who started the altercation?
I was not from video surveillance.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Carn or Commissioner Saxon, any questions for the licensee or the police officer?
Does anyone have the video for us they can get to us? Whether the police or the premises?
We turned it over to the detectives that night. I'm sure we must have a copy, but I would imagine we do. I can inquire and get it to you.
Okay.
Assuming we.
Detective Walsh, I can double check the case file, but when myself and the other detectives went, the video was pretty inconclusive. I know it was recorded, but it was not of any evidentiary value. The angle from which it was taken didn't show the altercation. It just sort of showed a scuffle in the aftermath.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Calling item number 2, Boston Ballroom Corporation doing business as Royale, located at 279 Tremont Street. Date of the incident, May 22nd, 2022. Assault and battery employee on patron occurred outside in front of the establishment in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Do we have anybody with us on behalf of Royale? We will take a second call. Calling item number 3, Tremont 958 Restaurant Corporation, located at 958 Tremont Street in Roxbury. Date of the incident, March 13th, 2022. Patron on patron assault with a firearm in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A, and a fray in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 130, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
You hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you, yes. Could you please identify yourself?
This is George Kalivas. I guess we were muted from Royale Nightclub.
Oh, okay, thank you. Then we will return to Royale Nightclub, which was read into the record already, item number 2.
Am I in here?
Excuse me? I think we're having some connection issues. Yes, Mr. Kalivas, are you able to also turn your camera on so that we can swear you in?
Hang on one second.
This is also Charles Del Pidio.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Del Pidio. We can hear you. We can't see you.
Can you see me now?
Nope.
I'm computer illiterate.
And yeah, and we're getting some pretty terrible feedback from your audio as well.
Give me just 1 second. Taraz, I need you.
Thank you. And in the meantime, on item number 2 here, who is present? on
How do I
behalf
get this
of-
camera working?
You get what camera?
My camera.
I don't, is that an iPhone? What is?
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department on item number 2?
Wasn't it just, weren't you just on?
Officer Rocca is here and Detective Walsh.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Okay, and Mr. Kalivas and Mr. Del Pidio, we can hear you. You may have trouble turning your camera on. Can you please affirm to the board that you will raise your right hand when asked to do so?
Yes,
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record? Oh, sorry, Officer Roca, you're on mute. Hang on just one moment. Let me ask you to unmute.
Okay, Officer Roca, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, and you may please proceed with the report.
About 2:54 a.m. on Sunday, May 22nd, 2022, Officer Roca responded for a radio call for a fight at 279 Tremont Street. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with Claudio Alberguera, who stated he was punched in the face by one male suspect, who fled the scene going inside of Royale nightclub. The victim also stated that he was standing around a white Honda Accord when he was approached by the suspect, who told him to stay away from the vehicle, then proceeded to punch him in the face. The officer observed the victim to be bleeding from his mouth. At that time, the victim declined medical assistance and informed the officer that he was going to walk over to Tough Medical Center to be evaluated. The officer conducted a CGS inquiry on the plate of the white Honda Accord, which showed the registered owner to be Giovanni Rivera Carrasquillo. Upon further investigation, the officer confirmed Carrasquillo to be one of the security staff at Royale nightclub. The officer located Carrasquillo inside of the club, who stated that Claudio Albergaria was dancing and twerking all over his vehicle. He then approached Albergaria and politely told him to refrain from dancing all over his vehicle. Albergaria then felt like since the car was parked on a public way, he was allowed to be around it. Carrasquillo then added that Albergaria abruptly slapped him in the face, and that was when he retaliated in self-defense, striking Albergaria in the face with a closed fist. Sergeant Smith, the Goal 902, responded on scene and conducted a license premise violation, number 22728.
Thank you. And we do have one supplemental report as well. I don't know if you'll be reading that or Detective Walsh.
I can read that if it's easier.
There we go. Thank you.
Detective Megan Walsh, the Alpha 803, conducted a follow-up investigation into the assault and battery incident that occurred on Sunday, May 22nd, 2022, outside of Royal Nightclub, 279 Tremont Street. Detective Walsh spoke with both parties involved in the fight. Both Albergaria and Casquillo reiterated the same version of events that they described to Officer Roca on scene the morning of the incident. Mr. Albergaria also advised Detective Walsh that he sought medical treatment at Tufts Medical Center after refusing EMS on scene. He stated that he sustained injuries to his face and lost a tooth as a result of the assault. Detective Walsh canvassed for video of the incident to no avail. Based on the above mentioned facts, Detective Walsh will seek complaints against both parties in Boston Municipal Court for assault and battery causing serious bodily injury on Mr. Giovanni Carrasquillo and Claudia Albergaria for Chapter 265, Section 13A, assault and battery.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kalivas, Mr. Del Pidio, would you like to address the alleged incident? Again, Mr. Kalivas, Mr. Del Pidio, are you still with us? See that you are not on mute.
I'm not on mute. I think Chuck is on mute. Yeah. Basically, this happened almost 3 o'clock in the morning. We were all cleared. Michael Breen and I were, and Chuck, we were all packing up stuff, getting ready to leave the club when this incident occurred. The only staff I had in the club was the bus boys and barbacks, finishing up cleaning. So I didn't find out about any of this until we got a call that there was a sergeant coming upstairs to write us up. Now, as far as the employee is concerned, he was terminated that night. He'd been with us for about, I don't know, 7 years altogether. Well, minus the COVID years, but he was a good employee, paid attention, kind, nice, polite. This is the first time I've ever seen him display this kind of action.
We were all ready to go home for the night. And he was basically waiting for one other person to drive home with. And that's about all there is to this, really, is that there was a problem with this guy on his car. He said he was slapped, he retaliated, he hit him. And of course, that will never be tolerated. We have a no hit policy in our club. So you hit somebody, you're automatically gone. So.
Thank you. And anything further from either of you before we turn to the board for questions?
Oh, basically, that's it.
That's it.
Basically, that's it. We found out about this afterwards. Everybody, the street was empty. Everybody was gone. And we were ready to call it a night.
All right, thank you. Let's turn it over to the board. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I do. So this happened around 3 a.m. What time do you guys close?
2.
2. So what happens between 2 and 3 with security guards? What's their role in that last hour?
We have security out on the street, and we have the security clearing people out, making sure we clear the club out, get everyone out by 2:30. And then once that happens, we help clear the street out front. Sometimes the Boston Police Department comes by and helps us out also, but we have three clubs right there. We have clubs around the corner, the parking garage is right across the street. So we try to do as much as we can to clear the street. So, everybody gets home safe and nothing happens with, traffic coming down Tremont Street.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Officer Roker, how exactly did you find out this person was an employee of the club?
I spoke to the victim. He said that whoever assaulted him went inside the club and he might have been an employee there. So I ran the plate number of the vehicle, got his name, and asked one of the staff or one of the managers if that person works there, and he said he does.
Okay. And then after you got that information, they were cooperative in helping you locate the individual?
Yes, they were. They always cooperated with us.
Okay, that's all I have then. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
All right, thank you. Sorry about the difficulty with the cameras. I'm, like I said, I'm computer illiterate.
Thank you. We are figuring out how to make it work. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Item number 3, I've already read into the record. Who is present on behalf of the licensee for Tremont 958 Restaurant Corporation? Is anybody here present on behalf of the licensee Tremont 958 Restaurant Corporation?
Andy, we've rescheduled this one before, right?
This item has been continued once, correct?
Okay. I'm going to ask that you read it into the record.
Okay, I will read into the record once again. Item number 3, Tremont 958 Restaurant Corporation, located at 958 Tremont Street. Date of the incident, March 13th, 2022. Patron on patron assault with a firearm in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A, and a fray in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64.
Okay, and I would like to move to reading the police reports into the record as well.
Okay, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Sean Wallace, District 4.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of this alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Good. Detective Wallace, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. If you could please read the report into the record.
About 9:23 p.m. on Sunday, March 13, 2022, Officer Jacobs and May in the Delta 201 responded to a radio call for a person with a gun at Slade's Bar and Grill, 958 Tremont Street, Boston, resulting in an on-site arrest. Also on scene were the following officers: Officer Foley, Officer Waddy Niles, Officer Madrano, Officer Hessler, Officer Lonigan, Officer Diaz, Officer O'Leary, Officer Murphy, Officer Canty, Officer Herbert, Officer Hazlitt, Officer Enriquez, Officer Aragones, Officer Green, Officer Monahan, Officer Mulvey, Sergeant Aziz, District 4 Detectives Spencer and Wallace. En route to the call, officers were informed through Boston Police Channel 5 dispatch of the following details given via numerous 911 callers. Fight, male with a gun. Suspect, black male, 30s, wearing a gray hoodie. Caller reports 2 black men with guns inside. One is shirtless. Other has a cream and blue hoodie. Both have guns. Officers arrived on scene and observed multiple parties crowded outside the entrance of Slade's, arguing and yelling. It should be noted that officers were informed that there was a physical altercation taking place both inside and outside of the establishment at this time, among what was believed to be a minimum of 200 people in attendance. As officers continued to arrive on scene, a black male with no shirt on, fitting the description, was observed walking outbound on Tremont Street from Lenox Street toward Hammond Street in the direction of Slade's, later identified as the suspect, Travis Means. Officers immediately pat-frisked the suspect Means for the presence of weapons to no avail. Among the commotion, officers' attention was immediately diverted to another male who attested he had a firearm on his person. The male, later identified as Isaiah Moore, stated he was security for Slade's. He further stated he was carrying his firearm in a holster located on his hip and had an LTC. It should be noted Moore was not wearing any type of uniform or security identifiers and was observed to be wearing a black t-shirt, black ripped jeans, and black sneakers. The firearm was confirmed to be a black Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm, serial number NK20444 with 9 rounds in the magazine and 1 round in the chamber. The gun was held in an inner waistband holster. Moore did provide an active LTC out of Quincy, 131-569-53A, issued on 11/17/2021 and expiring on June 15, 2027. Detectives seized and took custody of that firearm and LTC and will follow up with the licensing unit. At this time, a shirtless male identified as the suspect Means began to walk away from officers. Officers attempted to stop the suspect numerous times, to which the suspect refused, stating he needed to use the bathroom, and subsequently urinated on himself and the sidewalk. It should be noted the suspect appeared extremely intoxicated, unsteady on his feet, slurring his words, and had an odor of alcoholic beverage emanating from his facial area. Officers were eventually able to stop the suspect on the sidewalk in the approximate area opposite of 955 Tremont Street. It should be noted there are no marked buildings or addresses identifiers on the inbound side of Tremont Street on the block between Hammond Street and Lenox Street, where Slade's is located. While speaking with the suspect, numerous unnamed patrons confirmed to officers the suspect was the male as described as having a firearm. Patrons both verbally confirmed, stating he had the gun, as well as pointing and gesturing toward the suspect to indicate to officers. Additionally, Slade Security, specifically Moore, identified the suspect as the male with the firearm to officers. The suspect reported to officers that while waiting for the bathroom, a verbal argument ensued between him and an unknown male patron. The suspect reported that the argument began when he informed the unknown male that the bathroom was occupied at this time, and he was not permitted to enter. Suspect stated that an unknown male attempted to strike him with a closed fist, stating, do you know who I am? In a physical altercation between the two began with the suspect reports he was subsequently struck with a glass bottle. At this time, Slade security intervened and separated the two parties, removing the suspect from inside the premises out onto the sidewalk where officers encountered him. Officers did observe the suspect to have minor redness to his right cheek bone area, as well as a small laceration on his right ear jawline. Officers offered medical attention to the suspect, to which he declined numerous times. While arriving on scene, due to the number of police cruisers on scene, as well as numerous civilian vehicles that were parked in the area, officers were required to park a distance from the location and walk up to the street/sidewalk. While arriving on scene, officers Aragonis and Green were walking outbound on Tremont Street in the proximate area opposite 955 Tremont Street, where they observed a Gucci fanny pack on the curb next to a tree between the two between the two vehicles. Mass registration 1WSCZ73 and mass registration 6PB779. At this time, Officer Aragonis flipped over the fanny pack to conduct a pat frisk. Officer Aragonis observed the fanny pack to be unzipped. While in the process of turning it over, he observed a firearm fall to the ground. At this time, officers ceased any further movement of the firearm and fanny pack while it remained on the curb until detectives arrived on scene. Detectives Wallace and Fencer documented and photographed the firearm. It should be noted that on June 25th, 2021, Boston Regional Intelligence Center disseminated an officer safety and awareness bulletin regarding firearm recoveries. It stated, since April, there have been 10 firearms recovered in fanny packs in Boston and at least 3 additional recoveries in Brockton and Waltham. The bulletin additionally stated that individuals may carry fanny packs around their chest or shoulder to allow easy access to firearms. The firearm recovered from the fanny pack was a Star 40 caliber, serial number 2015215, with 5 rounds in the magazine. During further investigation, detectives spoke with Slade's employees, who subsequently provided surveillance video of a black male, shirtless in front of the entrance, brandishing a firearm. The suspect in the video observed to be a black male wearing no shirt, ripped jeans, and bright blue shorts underneath that could be seen above the jeans waistline and white colored sneakers. It should be noted that the suspect was initially observed to be wearing no shirt, ripped jeans with blue shorts, white sneakers, and a black shirt and jacket in his hand. While speaking with officers, the suspect did put his shirt and jacket on due to the cold temperatures and exposure to the elements at this time of night. After reviewing video surveillance footage, as well as numerous witness identifications in close proximity to the recovered firearm, officers placed the suspect, Travis Means, under arrest. Suspect was then searched incident to arrest on scene and placed into the rear of the patrol wagon for transport. At this time, Officer O'Leary read the suspect his Miranda rights from a card provided to him by the Boston Police Academy. Officer O'Leary demanded to see his Massachusetts license to carry a firearm. Suspect did not verbally respond, but shook his head in the negative as to indicate he did not have one. Again, Officer O'Leary demanded to see the suspect's LTC, to which he verbally responded no, he did not have one. Suspect was subsequently transported back to District 4 for booking by officers May and Jacobs. Sergeant Aziz conducted a code 35 of Slade's Bar and Grill and issued license premise violation number 022454 for the following violations: patron on patron assault, to wit firearm, a fray, expired entertainment license with no updated permit on files, violation issued to manager of Slade's Charisse Montgomery, large crowd at the above location for a special event for a birthday. Suspect Travis Means will be charged with the following: firearm without a license loaded, firearm without FID card in his possession, a ammunition without an FID card, and assault with a dangerous weapon, to wit firearm. ADA Caitlin Fitzgerald was notified. That's the police report.
Thank you very much. Chairwoman Joyce, would you like to move to questions for the detective, or how would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Danny. Yes, I have a couple questions. Detective Wallace, thank you for joining us today. It does say you arrived on the scene and you were the one who documented the firearm.
Yes.
How far away did you find that from Slade's?
So when you come out of Slades and you take a right turn heading down towards Mass Ave, it's probably about, I would say, about 40 yards away. First, it's prior to the first intersection. There's a MBTA bus stop right there. It was pretty much adjacent to that location, where the firearm was located.
Okay. And you were there when the crowd was still
Yes.
exiting?
Yes.
And how would you describe that crowd?
The crowd, when we got there fairly quickly. There was a lot of patrol officers on scene too. The crowd was fine. There was a lot of staff on scene, and they were very helpful with us trying to determine what exactly took place. And they were very good at getting the crowd outside and also identifying certain witnesses that we needed to speak to make that arrest.
Okay.
It was a little chaotic still inside because there were still some folks inside when we got there, and I think the staff did a pretty good job of getting people outside that needed to get outside.
Okay, and it sounds like the security, some of the security were armed as well.
Yes, there was one, the security guard identified in the police report, Mr. Moore, I believe his name was. He had a firearm on him. He did not. We reviewed video of the incident that night, and several days later, it did not appear that he took his firearm out of his holster during that incident.
Okay. I have no questions for the detective. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you?
Detective, do we know for sure that the firearm was inside? I'm not getting 100%.
Are you talking about the security guard's firearm or the suspect we arrested?
The suspect.
Yeah, so it looked like from the video, watching the video, he went back to a motor vehicle and retrieved the firearm. And he tried to enter the establishment at that point in time. At the threshold of the door, there was a confrontation between the security guard and the suspect. If he got inside, it was not very far. But the security guard, and there were several security guards at the threshold of the door that blocked his pathway back into Slades. So at that point in time, it looked like he then dropped the firearm and picked it back up again.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Detective. And Chairman Joyce is, go ahead, Commissioner Kern.
Just in general, for the record, what do we have for this? I know that this is rescheduled. Just for, we have it on the record. What was the service?
It was served and signed for, I can't tell you the date, but I can try to get that for you ASAP.
But it was hand delivered and signed.
It was hand delivered and signed for. Everything on this morning's agenda, we have signatures back for receipt of service.
The record. Thank you.
Thank you. On that note, Chairman Joyce, is your intention to vote on this on Thursday based on the report that was read into the record?
Yes, that's my intention.
Thank you. Thank you, Detective. The board will take this matter under advisement. Calling item number 4, GSTH Investment Group LLC, doing business as Bijou and Rock and Rye, located at 51 Stewart Street. Date of the incident, March 27th, 2022. Patron on patron assault and battery in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A, and failure to notify police in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.14B. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Stephen Miller. Also with me this morning is Diamond Brown, who is a security guard on that evening, and Joseph Gannon, who is the manager of the day on duty at that time.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Mike Pankovich.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Oh. Yes, if you could please identify yourself.
Diamond Brown.
Oh, yes, thank you. Your attorney already introduced you. Great. If you could all please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
I do.
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Ganem, who is with you, who also was just sworn in?
That's Mete Aslan from the club, also the general manager.
Thank you for identifying him.
I think he's director of operations. I'm sorry if I demoted him and promoted somebody else.
Thank you. Officer Pankovich, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Yes, sir. On about 3:15 a.m. on March 27th, I responded to a radio call to take an assault report from the area of 1330 Boylston Street. On arrival, I was met by both victims, Miss Sharma and a Miss Lohia. Both of the victims stated they were at the Bijou nightclub at 51 Stewart Street earlier in the evening. Both victims stated that they were waiting in the bathroom line. While in the bathroom line, two suspects began to verbally berate them. Ms. Sharma stated that when she turned to confront them, she was struck in the side of the head by suspect number 2. Ms. Sharma stated that the force of the strike made her hit her head on the nearby stall. Ms. Lahia stated that she was struck at the same time by suspect number 1, and she also hit her head on a nearby stall. Both victims stated they were punched and slapped multiple times, as well as being hit by knee strikes. Female club security responded and entered the bathroom to break up the fight. Female club staff escorted the victims out of the bathroom and got their version of what happened. Bar staff then escorted the victims back to the bathroom to identify their attackers. After the suspects were identified, the suspects were escorted out of the club by bar staff. The victim later approached bar staff to try and get information on the suspects, but the bar staff couldn't or wouldn't give it to them. The suspect number 1 was described as a white female, blonde hair, wearing a light blue dress. Suspect number 2 was described as a black female, wearing a dark or black outfit with her hair in braids. I observed a large swollen, bruised left eyebrow on Ms. Sharma, and I also observed a large swollen and bruised egg on Ms. Lahia's forehead. Both parties declined medical attention at this time, but were encouraged to seek medical attention at a later date. I took the report and then forwarded it down to our District A1 units. And that is the end of the report.
Thank you very much. Just looking, I believe there is a supplemental here as well.
I do not have access to that, sir.
Yes, it's Carl Dugal here. I'm a detective at District 1.
Thank you. Could I just swear you in briefly? Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thursday, March 31st, 2022, Detective Dugal, the Alpha 813, spoke to victim Sharma regarding an assault and battery report she made on March the 27th. Victim stated that she and her friend, Ms. Radhika, were waiting in line for at Bijou when 2 females began verbally harassing them. Suspects were described as being one African-American female wearing a dark outfit and braided hair, and one being a white female wearing a light blue and blonde hair. Upon entering the women's bathroom, victim states that the suspect grabbed her by her hair and slammed her head against the door to a stall. Victim said that the suspect also did this to victim number 2, holding both victims. Female staff members stopped the assault and told the victims that they would get the suspect's information before ejecting them from the club, and then help them report the incident. Victim that she and her friend, victim number 2, waited and then finally approached the staff members. One white female, brunette hair, and one American female, who stated they did not get the suspect's information and then ejecting. 9 p.m. Detectives Dugal and McDonough, Alpha 807, responded to 51 Stewart Street and spoke to Joseph. Joseph Ganem. Detectives asked if there was any video footage. Joseph Ganem stated that he was aware of the incident and he had thought that it was just a verbal argument. Ganem further stated that he needed the camera guy and that he would recontact the detective issued Bijou license premise violation number 23681 for patronizing assault and battery and failure to notify police. What's not included in the supplement is that Mr. Ganem did get us video subsequently, a few days later.
Thank you very much. Attorney Miller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, first, Detective Dougal, you did not witness the incident, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what your report is based on the information from Ms. Sharma and Ms. Lohia, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you reviewed the video, did the video show anything?
No, it was inconclusive. It
Thank
identified suspects and the assault takes place in the restroom. So I wasn't able to see that.
Thank you, Detective. Officer Pankovich,
Yes, sir.
you didn't witness the incident, is that correct?
Correct. The victims contacted the police when they got home. It was on Boylston Street out by Fenway Park.
So what is 1330 Boylston Street? Is that an apartment?
Yes, sir. That's an apartment building on Boylston Street out by Fenway Park.
Did you meet them outside or in their apartment or?
In their apartment, sir.
In their apartment. And did they, so this was approximately 3:15 a.m.?
Yes.
And did they tell you what they were doing between the time they left the club, which would have been between 2 and 2:15 after closing, and an hour later? Did they tell you where they went or what they did?
No, sir.
Did they so you did not, this was turned over to the detectives. You did not go to Bijou and speak with anybody, is that correct?
No, sir. Due to the time, we don't cover Bijou, so I took the report, sent it over to the A1 detectives.
Okay, I have no further questions for either of the detective or the officer. So Diamond, I see you there. Will you identify yourself for the board?
My name is Diamond Brown. Female security.
And you were working that evening based on the incident that reports you heard?
Yes, that is correct.
And so you went to, you were called to the ladies' room that evening about a verbal altercation?
That is correct.
So what did you see? You saw two groups, one group that had gone to security, Miss Sharma and Miss Lohia, and then another group of a couple of women. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you know, as we know, there's always two sides to a story. You spoke with the other women that were accused of the assault, and what did they tell you happened?
They said that the two young girls started talking verbally, disrespectfully to them, and that's when everything went wrong.
Were they making fun of the girls, their hair and other things? Is that what was occurring? I'm sorry, did we lose you? Oops.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Did they say that they were taking pictures or making fun of them, of their hair or clothing? Is that what they said?
Yes. Yes.
And that's what caused the incident?
That is correct.
Did you see either side have any injuries, any face damage, any scratches, anything that occurred? So that was no, correct? Is that correct?
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Relax. You didn't see any injuries or damage on either side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you ask both sides if they wanted you to call the police?
No, what I did, I took them both, I took the two girls out and spoke to them to diffuse the situation before it got any worse.
And the other parties decided to just leave the premises. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you have security follow them out to make sure they did leave and that this didn't blow up again?
Yes.
Did either these, the two that were claimed that they were assaulted, did they ask you to call the police?
No.
And after the incident, which occurred approximately at 1 o'clock in the morning, is that correct?
That is correct.
So what did those two do? Did they spend the rest of, go ahead.
They continued to enjoy themselves in the club while the other group, left. They willingly left.
But these two that claim that they were assaulted and they received these injuries, they stayed until, did they stay until closing?
Yes, they did.
Did you have any other contact with them?
No, until the end of the night.
And then what happened?
They wanted to make sure that I got in contact with the general manager to let him know what was going on, and I told them I would.
And that was the end of the incident?
That was the end of it.
Mr. Gannon, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
You did meet with the detective and you viewed the video with him?
I did not view the video.
You gave the video to the detective? Is that what you did?
Correct.
Okay. I have nothing further, Madam Chair. Ms. Brown and Mr. Gannon are here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I do. So I'm sorry, Diamond, can you explain to me on a night like this, what Bijou does as far as monitoring the bathrooms for security?
We check the bathrooms like literally all the time. To make sure there's nothing going on, make sure there's no, extra females in stalls where they're not supposed to be at. So that's how often we check. We checked a lot.
And Diamond, you weren't the only female security guard on that evening, correct?
I'm sorry?
You weren't the only female security guard on that evening?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn to my fellow commissioners to see if they have other questions.
Ms. Brown, that evening, how was your attention drawn to this alleged incident?
I was called to the bathroom.
Okay.
I quickly ran up to the bathroom to find out what was going on, and that's what I saw.
And then you spoke to the people that are alleged to be the victims, correct?
That is correct.
And what did they tell you had happened?
They said that one of the girls had slapped them, and the other girl was slapped also, but there was no visual markings, there was no scratches, there was no bumps, no nothing.
And so you're saying it's just a slap? Anything else that they told you happened?
No, just that.
Okay. That's all I have then. Thank you.
And just to confirm, can you reiterate, was there anything that happened outside of the club, outside of the bathroom? I mean.
No, there wasn't. There was nothing that happened outside of the bathroom. I quickly removed the two ladies, and I brought the other girls. They left the club, so it wouldn't cause no more, issues.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, anything further?
I have no questions.
Commissioners Carter and Saxon?
Are we getting any video on this one from any party? Police or?
The video was given to the police, and as the detective said, it was inconclusive. Like, we could make a copy of it if the board wants it.
Would the board want, sorry, Chairman Joyce, you were on mute.
Yeah, I was gonna say that might be helpful to us.
Okay. Joe, will you make a copy of that, or reach out to the detective if you can't find it?
Okay. Thank you. Then we will await that video, and the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Secretary, Commissioners.
Thanks. Calling item 6, Big Night Venues Boston 4 LLC, doing business as the Scorpion Bar and Restaurant, The Grand, located at 25 Northern Ave. Date of the incident, May 29th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kristen Scanlon for the licensee. On with us this morning are Charlie Kane, who is Director of Security, and Michael Nachman, who is the General Manager.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Jason Albanese.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Kevin Magoons present.
Thank you. And Detective and Mr. Nachman, if you are planning on testifying, could you please turn your camera on so we can swear you in? Just waiting one moment. Mr. Nachman, if you're not able to turn your camera on, could you please affirm for the board that you will raise your right hand when asked to do so?
Yes.
Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Albanese, will you be reading the police report into the record?
I sure can.
Thank you.
Okay. So on Sunday, May 29th, 2022, around 2:25 a.m., Detective Canonez Hamilton and Officer Mullane, assigned to the Fox Gold 3, on site at a fight outside the Grand, 58 Seaport Boulevard, South Boston. The detective and officer observed a group of males hitting each other. The fight happened near the sitting area between the Grand and Kings. Detective Canonez Hamilton saw victim Joshua Gutierrez get punched somewhere in the head, making him fall backward and landing on the back of his head. Blood began pouring out of the back of his head. The victim was unconscious for a few minutes. His friends tried to help him by applying pressure to the bloody area with a t-shirt. EMS was summoned to the scene. Meanwhile, the crowd was getting larger and more aggressive amongst each other. Additional C6 units were needed to help to disperse the large crowd of people gathering. As additional units were arriving on scene, the crowd began dispersing. Unfortunately, as the crowd dispersed, the suspect made good on his escape. Witness / friend, Hendel, Alarole, excuse me if I mispronounced, was asked what the fight was over. He had no idea why his friend was fighting. He just saw Joshua hit the ground, and from that point on, Hendel wanted to help his friend. The victim, Joshua Gutierrez, sustained a gash to the back of his head. He was transported to Tufts Medical Center by ambulance A6. And then there's a line that they advised me. That evening, I did not have a licensed premise book on me. I returned the following evening on Monday, 5:30 at about 2300 hours, which is 11 p.m. I issued a licensed premise inspection notice 026729 to Big Night Entertainment, which is the managing group for the Grand, for assault and battery, patron on patron. The Grand was closed at the time, but Scorpion Bar was open. They're both they're separate establishments, but they are both managed by Big Night Entertainment. The manager at Scorpion Bar accepted the notice, and she stated that she would place it in the common safe for the general manager, Mr. Howard. And that is the end of the police reports.
Thank you, Sergeant. Attorney Scanlon, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, please. Sergeant Albanese, I guess, or Detective Magoon. To your knowledge, did police interact with any members of the licensee staff that evening?
I had trouble actually like recalling this particular incident, but if I returned the following evening, the only thing I would have maybe, I maybe would have made contact with one of the managers on scene just to let him know that I'd have to come back the next day to issue a license premise violation. But at the time, I believe all units were used to try to disperse and control the crowd.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge and recollection, was staff cooperative with you regarding any interactions from this evening?
Yeah, I've never had staff at Scorpion Bar or the Grand. I've never had them be uncooperative with me.
Thank you. To your knowledge, did police learn from either the victim or the victim's friend that's noted in the report that they were inside the licensed premises that evening?
Yeah, that was gathered by the officers on scene had observed the crowd that broke into a fight. They had observed that crowd having been cleared out of the Grand as they were closing. So they were all coming out of there and kind of gathering in the seating area. And then that's when the fight broke out.
But that's not noted in the report, right?
No, this is what, I guess it wasn't noted specifically in the report, but that's what I just had gathered from speaking to the officers.
Okay, thanks. To your knowledge, was the suspect in this incident ever identified?
For the record, Detective Magoon, no suspect was ever positively identified.
Thank you, Detective. And to your knowledge, did the victim ever follow up with police to press charges in this matter?
He did not.
Thank you, Detective. If I may, Madam Chair, members of the board, upon receipt of the licensed premises violation, staff did conduct its own due diligence and investigation into whether these patrons, the alleged suspect and the victim, were even inside the licensed premises that evening. They did pull two separate video angles of the exterior to review the altercation that occurred, which unfortunately is captured right at the edge of the total coverage area of the licensee's surveillance videos outside and does not capture the entirety of the altercation. However, the licensee immediately did request from the landlord with subsequent follow-up preservation of additional video angles of the courtyard and street area, noting that this could assist BPD with their investigation. But unfortunately, this request went unanswered as far as the licensee is aware. BPD might have another viewpoint of that. But nonetheless, the licensee did conduct its own due diligence. They did backtrack from the time of the altercation to patrons exiting at closing hour and inside the premises that evening, and neither the alleged unidentified suspect nor the victim were ever seen even interacting with each other. There was also never any incident with any patron inside the premises that evening that would have made this even foreseeable upon dispersal that evening that the staff could have otherwise prevented. Neither the patron or the alleged, obviously unknown suspect is known to the licensee or was known prior to this event. This wasn't an instance where the fight poured outside the premises. We certainly can submit the videos that we do have to the board, but you'll see that nearly 12 minutes goes by between what is believed to perhaps be the exit of the alleged suspect from the premises at approximately 2:11 a.m. to when the altercation occurs at almost 2:23 a.m. Even viewing outside footage, it is not clear that there was any buildup of any altercation that was about to occur away from the premises and towards the street. The incident did occur again prior to 2:30 when there's a steady and staggered flow of patrons exiting the premises in an orderly fashion pursuant to the licensee's dispersal policy that they have on record with the board. And when staff who were positioned outside noticed the altercation, they not only ran to assist and break it up, but also did call 911. At about the same time, the on-site BPD detail was also approaching to assist with the altercation, as was read into the record by Sergeant Albanese. As you heard from police, no follow-up from the victim, never a positive ID on the suspect. No charges were brought in this case, and while clear from the video that an assault occurred, it was not on the premises and occurred in a space and time removed from the premises. Nothing was foreseeable that evening by staff that could have otherwise prevented this incident from occurring. Mr. Nachman was there that evening and certainly answer any questions that the board might have, and Mr. Kane was the one to personally conduct the due diligence in reviewing the videos along with their compliance specialist, and can certainly answer any questions that the board might have.
Thank you, Attorney Scanlon. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Carmen, Commissioner Saxon.
No questions for me. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Calling item number 9, Inshallah Inc., doing business as Crave, located at 128 Brighton Ave in Alston. Date of the incident, July 17th, 2022. Premise conducting bottle service without permission in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Overcrowding, 294 mechanical count, capacity 162 in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.03J and 1.06A and F. An assault and battery patron on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Thank you, Secretary Green. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Ryan Gosda from McDermott, Goldie and Miller on behalf of the licensee. With us this morning is Susan Cheng, who is the manager of record as well.
Thank you. And who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you very much. Could you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, you may please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading from police report, which I wrote on Sunday, July 17, 2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Crave Alston, located at 128 Brighton Ave in Boston. As detectives walked up to the establishment, detectives asked the front door staff how many patrons they currently had inside. The staff member stated that they had a count of 300 patrons. While walking into the establishment, detectives observed patrons sitting at multiple tables with bottles of hard alcohol, tequila placed in ice buckets. Detectives proceeded to review the licenses and permits of the establishment. Detectives learned that the capacity for the premises set at 162 patrons. Detectives Hernandez performed a mechanical count of the establishment and discovered that the actual number of persons located inside the premise was 294. Detectives then made note that bottle service is not a condition allowed under the establishment common regulations. Detectives informed the person in charge, Ms. Susan Chen, that this is a prohibited practice. Ms. Chen stated that she would immediately correct the situation. It should be noted that while detectives were inside the establishment, detectives observed a fight between multiple patrons. Sergeant Detective Gallagher deemed that the situation was becoming a hazard and immediately shut down the establishment. Multiple police units arrived and assisted in dispersing the large crowd of patrons. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 058943 for premise conducting bottle service, overcrowding, and assault and battery, patron on patron. Ms. Chen signed for an accepted notice. That is all. There is a photo attached of the one of the tables with the bottles inside there.
Thank you. Yep, we have that photo. It's been shared with the board.
That's all.
Thank you. Attorney Gosda, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Just a few brief questions for the detective, if I might. When yourself and the detectives visited the premise, was staff cooperative with the detectives?
Yes.
And when the fight did break out inside the premise, did security and staff of the facility assist to the extent that they could?
Yes, it took a while. We were there for a long time. It was out of control for a little while.
I have nothing further for the detective. Thank you, sir. If I just might have a few questions for Susan. If she's on, I believe she is the iPad.
Yes, he's here.
Thank you, Susan. You were present on the night of the incident.
Yes,
Can you just describe briefly, was it a relatively busy night that night?
it was really busy for me at the bar. The security team, the owner of it, he was away for the weekend, so he had put on 6 guys, I believe, or 5 guys and 1 woman to be on the team, and assured me that the security team knew exactly what they were doing. So when I got called from the bar to go to the front because there were police here, I immediately left the bar and told the bartenders to handle it. I'm like, I have to go to the front. I go and I start walking through the crowd, and I see Officer Gallagher and Hernandez, and they're telling me that, oh, like, what's going on here, Susan? Overcapacity, you shouldn't be doing bottle service. I didn't know that we couldn't be doing bottle service, and the promoters had brought in their own bottle girls. They were bringing in bottles and they were doing the whole bottle service themselves and putting it on the table, but they were at each table. I didn't know that they weren't removing bottles as they were supposed to be finished. And when we actually witnessed that there was a fight going on inside, that's when Officer Hernandez asked everyone to leave the premises. And then I had to go and grab the security team and have everybody like leave. But it was, as officers had said, it was overcapacity, and there were just a lot of people inside just trying to get people out.
So it'd be fair to say that in most instances, you typically rely upon the security staff to maintain
Yes.
the door count.
Yes.
Okay. And the evening in question, there was different staff assigned by the security company.
The
versus-
owner of the security team was not available. He was away for the weekend with his family.
Okay, and after this incident, I know you already stated that at the time you were unaware that a separate permit
Yeah.
was required for bottle
We have
service.
since stopped.
Since have you?
We have since stopped bottle service. The only bottles we do is on the Sundays like following, which was 2 weekends after, where we had mimosa bundles, where it's a bottle of Prosecco with 2 different juices that we offer with it. Thereafter, that's all we've done.
I have nothing further. Just I would state for the board that this is really a perfect storm of unfortunate events. They were relying upon the security team to maintain the door count, and there were different staff assigned by the security company that unfortunately didn't know the correct number that they have to maintain for the property. So that we do apologize that it was over capacity. We'll make sure that this does not happen again, and watch the door more closely. With respect to the bottle service permit, as Susan said at the time, they did not realize that a separate bottle service permit was required for that. They've stopped that practice, and to the extent they ever plan to do it in the future, they will come before the board again for a separate bottle service permit. But we're of course happy to answer any questions that you might have, and again, would just apologize for the incident.
Thank you, Chairman Joyce. Do you have any questions?
I do. Susan, are you the manager of record?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the rules and regulations of this board?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the rules and regulations of the ABCC?
I have started reading on since the incident. Yes, I have.
Yeah, this is really bringing into question whether or not you have the proper character and fitness to be the manager of record in my mind. I don't know how, despite what your attorney is saying, you wouldn't realize that this was over capacity. I don't know how you would have not known to tell the security staff what the capacity was. And I do not know how you wouldn't realize that bottle service wasn't allowed.
The bottle service.
Any other questions? I think we've had this conversation before, but I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon. Any questions?
I would second the chair's comments and add, on the evening question, you couldn't see that your establishment was more than 100 over capacity?
We have a wall between the bar and the actual front door, which is taller than me. So I couldn't, and we always have relied on the security staff. And when the owner of the security staff, Alex, he generally has a walkie-talkie on with me, and he keeps a count with a clicker. So he puts his partner on, like when he's away for the weekend. I would assume that, which is my fault, to assume that they would know exactly what the capacity would be. It's posted.
So as the manager, you're telling me you're there that evening and you can't tell how many people are in your establishment?
I was working the bar, so I really could not. I couldn't even like look up. I couldn't go to the bathroom.
Okay, so that means that you didn't have enough staff on.
We did not have enough staff on that weekend.
Okay, did you,
Because we had 2 people call out that didn't come in. And when people don't come in, like I'm forced to go ahead and fill whatever position is needed. I'm running back and forth between the kitchen and the bar.
as the manager who knew you didn't have enough staff on, did you do anything to cut your capacity that evening?
I told the front security, which was not the partner, David, but I told James, I'm like, you guys have to keep it. And we were supposed to end the party. That party, when it went past half an hour, I was already like telling everyone like, what is going on? What time is it? I'm asking what time it is. It's like, we had to shut it down.
So in light of your not having enough staff, what did you tell your security as far as how many people they should let in?
Oh, I didn't tell the number, but James had already worked the door so many times. We have never had a capacity issue leading up to that point. But then it was with the partner, David. He actually came to me and wanted to extend the party because he knew the promoters. So I was already pissed off at that. I'm like, this is ridiculous, because we were already coming in from another party from the night before, and we were all exhausted. Nobody wanted to work. I think that's why we had staff call out and like force.
I'll ask you, as the manager, knowing
Yes.
you didn't have enough staff, what did you do to cut your capacity that evening so you knew you had enough staff for the people that would be there?
It was my fault to assume that security would go ahead and keep it at capacity and not do anything more. Because I kept already checking on the kitchen to see if they were okay, to see if anybody could come out and help us do the busing or anything of that sort, because everybody was wearing multiple hats that day. We were short.
So of the 3 things that happened that evening, was anything your fault?
It's all under my fault because I was the one managing.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Yeah, I think I'm just having trouble trying to figure out, even though there was a wall, why you couldn't figure out that you guys are over capacity. What does the wall do?
I didn't have a chance to leave the bar because we only had 2 people at the bar. And when customers are all in your face, we couldn't even get around to it. All issues were.
But doesn't that give you the clue that you're over capacity if you're being so overwhelmed by like that?
Yes, it did. It's completely my fault.
Anything further from the board? Board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 10, Arguedas Corporation, located at 30 Bennington Street in East Boston, date of the incident July 30th, 2022, premise providing bottle service without Boston Licensing Board approval, a carafe of aguardiente, in violations of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Is anybody present on behalf of the licensee? It appears not. Chairman Joyce, this item has not been rescheduled or asked for continuance yet. Would you like to read the police report into the record or reschedule with the licensee?
Do we know that they received service?
Yes, they did on, let me check, September 9th, on September 7th, they received and signed for service.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and read the police report into the record?
Okay. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Gallagher will read that one into the record.
Great. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who also wish to testify this afternoon? Okay. Sergeant Detective Gallagher, you've already been sworn. You may please proceed with the police report.
On Saturday, July 30th, 2022, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection in Bohemios, located at 30 Bennington Street in East Boston. While walking through the establishment, detectives observed patrons sitting at tables with a carafe of hard alcohol, aguardiente, placed on a table next to an ice bucket. The bottle was left unattended and made available for self-service to make beverages. Detectives informed the person in charge, Ms. Lucely Perenez, that this is a prohibited practice. Bottle service is not a condition allowed on the establishment's common victual license. Ms. Perenez stated she would take corrective immediate action. As a result, detectives had observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher observed, issued license premise inspection notice number 043345 for premise providing ball service without approval of Boston Licensing Board. Ms. Perennias signed for and accepted the notice. That is the report, sir.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions for Sergeant Gallagher?
I don't.
Commissioner Carn or Commissioner Saxon?
No questions. I think I have a comment.
Mhm.
I'd like to take notice that we denied their application to provide bottle service on April 6, 2017.
Thank you, Commissioner Carmen.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon?
No questions.
Thank you. And Chairman Joyce, is it your intention to vote on this item on Thursday?
Yes, that's my intention.
Thank you. Board will take this matter under advisement. And calling item number 11, Aya Pizza LLC, doing business as Red Line Pizza located at 580 to 582 Dorchester Ave in South Boston. Dated the incident July 30th, 2022. Patrons on premise at 12:15 a.m. with an 11:30 p.m. posted closing hour in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 9. It appears that the licensee is not present. They were served and signed for notice on September 3rd. Chairman Joyce, would you like to have the report read into the record?
Let's read it into the record, and my intention is to vote on it on Thursday.
Okay, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I'm reading that one, sir.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify to this violation this afternoon?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. You have both been sworn in. Detective Hernandez, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Okay, so, on Saturday, July 30th, 2022, at approximately 12:11 a.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez signed to the BPD license permission to conduct a license premise inspection of Red Line Pizza located at 580 Dorchester Street. While delivering a license premise violation hearing notice, detectives observed multiple patrons seated, eating and drinking food. Detectives were aware that all patrons had to be off the premise by 11:30 p.m. It should be noted that the business is allowed to only have takeout service between 11 and 2 a.m. Detectives spoke to the person in charge, Mr. Ehab Mihoros, who stated that he would bring the establishment into compliance. As a result of the incident, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 043341 for patrons on premise after closing hour, which is 11:30 p.m. Mr. Mihoros signed for and accepted the notice. That's all.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Chairman Joyce, any questions for the detective?
No questions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carmen or Commissioner Saxon, any questions for the detective?
And for me, thank you.
None from me either. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement as well, and those are all of the items before the board today. That will adjourn this violation hearing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good day.